Thank you, everybody. How are we doing? I'm the street certified doctor here with this is the Couch Live on 1680 AM WOKB, and of course it's 100.7 FM WOKB in Central Florida. Like I said, I'm Louis Delgado. There's the co-host right there, Dr. JoJo Brown. How you doing, Dr. Brown?
I'm good. Coming from Alabama. So, see, I'm over here swinging. You might hear birds and roosters, but I'm here. I wasn't going to miss a beat. So, hi,
Yeah,
everybody.
I think it's so cool. So just to set everything up, because when people are listening to this or watching this or however they're doing it, you could be listening on WOKB, you could be watching it on Facebook Live or listening on Facebook Live or Twitch or what I don't know how else YouTube, um, or just as a podcast. However you get your podcast, you might be listening to it that way. But what I'm saying is, you might hear a lag, and that's because Jojo, you're in Alabama, like for real. You're swinging on a swing on someone's porch in Alabama.
Real.
Yeah, look at that. That's where you're at. I love it.
Yeah, I'm out here. I'm
I
a
love
country
it.
girl, in case y'all didn't know.
Yeah, no, I don't think. Well, there's always the possibility of somebody being a little country, but I don't know if everybody believes it until you actually see it, like we're seeing it now with you. Now we see it, so
Yeah.
now I guess we believe it. So that little lag right there is gonna be an issue, but you just bear with us, people. No big deal. All right, so we're talking about grief and loss today, like death and grief today, because Jojo, I don't know, I know you're in Alabama, but I'm sure even in Alabama, you have heard we've lost three icons in just like a short period of time. We've lost three major people in a short period of time. We've lost Malcolm-Jamal Warner, Theo from the Cosby Show. We've lost Ozzy Osbourne from Black Sabbath, and of course Ozzy Osbourne, rock legend, and Hulk Hogan from wrestling, a wrestling legend. All three of them were like big icons because the Cosby Show was number one for I don't know how many years. So you have heard about all that, right?
I have. I have. Um, Malcolm, super sad, drowned, you know.
Mm.
That's just awful. Um, Ozzy Osbourne, I know that's Sharon's husband, and Hulk Hogan. My son used to love wrestling, so every year I used to take him to the WWE Showdown until one day he came in my room and he was like, "I'm mad at you." And I'm
Mm.
like, "Why?" And he was like, "You didn't tell me wrestling is fake. I don't ever want to go again." And so, yeah, that's how yeah,
Yeah,
super sad. To see three icons leave.
yeah,
I mean, it's always sad whenever you lose somebody.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, because like even in my personal life right now, I know two that just passed away recently that are pretty sad. Um, and well, very sad, I should say. One of my business partners, she lost her man. Her boyfriend that she lived with, and that's a horrible situation. Suddenly, and then of course, one of my good friends up in Nashville, that. It was sad to hear about him. He actually had a heart attack while driving his car. His daughter was in the car, and he had a heart attack while driving his car. And luckily, he had already gotten off the freeway and just had a minor accident. But still, she's in the car and watches her dad, pass away in front of her. So there's these things that have been happening all around, and death is just one of those things that's really sad. I got
That's
to go
so
back to something you said. Ozzy was Sharon's husband, so it reminds me that some people know people differently from different situations, and that's how you know of Ozzy from Sharon's husband. That's pretty cool.
yeah. Forgive me, everybody. But outside of that, all I know is when we lost when she threw that juice on that girl for disrespecting her husband, Miss Sharon. That's the highlight of Ozzy Osbourne for me. So
Right. No,
I'm
I
sorry,
get it.
y'all, but I
No,
don't know
you don't need to apologize for
him. It's
anything. Well, just to
super
let you
sad.
know, Ozzy's one of these people that I had always wished that eventually one day I would meet. I mean, of all the celebrities that we bump into, we get to know, we get to enjoy time with, this is one that I really, really was hoping one day to meet. And I remember when I was hired to do this thing for a pharmaceutical company, they flew me out to Hollywood, and I was excited about it because I filmed it. We recorded, and it was me and Sharon Osbourne. So I was really excited about it because I'm like, oh, at least I'll finally get to meet Sharon, right? At least that's as close to Ozzy as I felt like I was ever going to get, right? Um, and then something
Yeah.
happened where Sharon couldn't be there live, so they were going to do her segment differently and then make it look like we were in the same room talking, and that's how it ended up happening. So there's the thing exists where it looks like we were in the same room, but we weren't in the same room. Like I would be answering her questions, talking to her. She'd be talking to me, asking me the questions, but she didn't interview me. She didn't talk to me. We did it in two separate times, man. But that's as close as I got to that, JoJo. But so I can respect that because Sharon is somebody big in her own right. So that's pretty cool that she is big enough for some people to say, oh, Ozzy is Sharon's husband. I think that's really cool. But getting back to topic, death is one of these things that every time it's experienced daily, hourly, right? It's always happening. And so someone
Mhm.
around you at some given point in time is having a conversation or a thought or an experience within this. And some tend to trigger you a little bit harder than others, right? Some tend to just cut you a little bit deeper than others. Like if we look at you would think that being Ozzy, Ozzy was what, 76, something like that, or up there. What do you call it? Hulk was 71. So we tend to look at age like as like a factor to at least make it hurt less, but it doesn't always. Because then when you see Malcolm and he's like, what was he, like 54 or something like that? Is that what Theo was?
I don't know. He definitely was young.
Yeah, so he's younger than me. I'm 55, and I know he's younger than me. I think he's like 1 year younger than me or something like that. So 54, and so when you look at that, it almost feels like, man, that's worse, right? Like it's
Hmm.
worse when you die younger, right? I mean, that's at least as the human experience. That's how we tend to view it socially. That at least if you're older, we feel like you've lived a life, you've hopefully enjoyed your life, hopefully, you've done. Uh, some things, and you have a lot of loved ones around you in the end or something like that. But when you're young, you feel like, oh man, they left before their time. There was so much still left to do. And I don't know, it just always seems like that. But in cases where it's a family member or someone close to you, or in this case an icon that you kind of grew up admiring, it's a painful regardless of age.
It is. And my thoughts is it always depends, right? So, and I think a big part of it too is how a person leaves this earth.
Mm,
For some, it's accidental death is a lot different, than you have someone who you love who's gone through illness and things like that, or even illness where you want them to be at peace because you know they're suffering. And then you have some people who are like, yeah, grandpa lived 85 years, he lived his life. And then you have some people, he's 85 and it's the most detrimental death of any
mm,
deaths that they ever have had because of the closeness and the relationship
mm.
with that individual. So I think it all depends on who we're talking about, what
Mm.
relationship they have, and how they left the world, the earth, left their family and friends.
Yeah, you are so right. How a person leaves is very meaningful. I mean, we just went through the case. It's still kind of on TV. What, the Idaho murders, and you see that, and it takes me back to when our young Zoe was at FAU living in a beautiful house with all of these, her roommates and stuff, and the parties that they must have had there. And I think, man, I can only imagine if one of these dudes would have went into my daughter's house with all her friends and done that to them, because they were at the same age, of that time
Right.
period. And what's weird is I remember one time this creepy guy came by. We were taking something in, my wife and I, and this creepy guy that was like in his 30s on a bicycle. And anytime there's a guy in his 30s on a bicycle, at least you gotta look at him just at least twice, right? You gotta look at him at least twice.
Right.
and and
Sadly.
the dude said something like, "Oh, you're taking that into the sorority girl's house, huh?" Something like that. And it was like, what a creepy comment. What the hell is he talking about? You know what I mean? Like, so he
Yeah, you
already
got.
knew it was a bunch of females living in the house.
Yeah, you have to be extremely careful. This world is crazy. It's
Mm,
like some people like, oh no, it's just because we have social media now to capture everything. But no, it's different than when I grew up, and I know it's different when you grew up.
mm.
Um, I don't even know how people raising little babies in this world time. Be honest.
It's difficult. It's difficult, I'm sure. There's just so much information, right? And no wonder we have helicopter parents and stuff like that. But with death,
This
have,
one left.
we all really just deal with it very differently. So I thought we should talk about it because there's a lot of people that listen on the radio or on the podcast or something like that may not all deal with it in a healthy manner. Some may drink more, do more of something, imbibe in some other sort of vice, or just black it
Right.
out like it never happened. I don't know, but look, we've all heard about the 5 stages of grief, right? We've all heard about that, and that seems to be like the gold standard of understanding of the way we typically process grief and stuff like that. So I thought we should at least talk about it. You being Dr. Brown, I figure that maybe you can help us understand a little bit about it. First, obviously, starting with the denial part, which I think we all do initially, right? The very first sentence a lot of us say is what? No way, no way, and you got to call
No,
somebody for proof, or you got to Google for proof.
serious. Right. I remember. Ooh, sorry about that. I remember when my grandmother passed, and my mom let me take over the phone, which I'm so glad, because I'm gonna tell this to everybody. This is a public service announcement.
Hmm.
When someone passes away, you don't call or ask that person what happened.
Mm,
That is like one of the most awful things that you could say to someone who just lost someone that they love. And you get that a lot. So if you're listening to me and that's you, stop, please.
mm,
It's so insensitive. It's so cruel. It's so nosy. And there's no compassion or empathy or sympathy when you're too concerned about how someone left, opposed to being there for an individual who may need some comforting at that moment.
Do you think that may be part of the denial part for the other person? Like they just you got to tell me how it happened for me to even believe that it really did. Do you think it's part of that? Maybe.
For the person calling
Yeah.
or the person experiencing.
No, the
Could
person
be
calling. Person calling.
the person calling. Yeah, definitely. Like, oh my gosh, are you serious? Yeah,
Yeah.
I am. And I do understand what you said. That's a different way to look at it from the other side, the denial
Mm,
of that person.
mm,
I never looked at it like that, but definitely some denial, some shock there
yeah.
at that moment of hearing, something like that. But I do think that if you're on the opposite side, be mindful of that.
Yeah.
Even if it's just for that moment. I'm pretty sure that that person at some point will let you know the details of what happened. But right there in that moment, how can I be there for you?
Hmm.
I'm sorry
Yeah.
for your loss.
Yeah. You know what? So
And so,
this leads to a great question from me because I got to be honest, Jojo. In me, that I have words for a lot of different things. I do come right up front and tell somebody, look, there's no words that I have that can help you right now. And it's a fact. I'm just talking from me. I mean, obviously, I'm uncomfortable having this conversation with you. I'm uncomfortable, you know, you know, even talking about this subject with you. I know you're in a bad state, is what I'm thinking in my head, but I'm not going to say I'm uncomfortable. I'm not going to make it about me, but that's the fact. The reality is I am uncomfortable calling a person or texting a person or whatever it is, sending a message to somebody, because I don't have the right words to say. So, but I know I have to say something, right? Like I know I have to, for that person, let them know I care about you. I'm here for you. But maybe that's the answer. Maybe I just accidentally answered it myself. Maybe that's just all I should say.
No, I think that's great. That's perfect. Because one thing that you, and I say you, we, me, I, they, them, um,
Hmm.
what we don't want to do in those moments is tell someone, I understand your pain.
Hmm.
I understand what you're going through. And one, not that time, especially initially on the front end, but also be mindful and be careful when you ever say that to somebody. Because if you've never lost your mother, you
Hmm.
can't tell me you understand what I've gone through. If you have never lost a father, if you never lost a child, you can't tell that person, sure, you may understand losing somebody, but be
Hmm.
careful of how you word certain things because it can be offensive to that individual who is going through something and could possibly piss them off, or you receive a response that
Hmm.
you didn't necessarily mean because you were coming from a part of love, but it's not the right thing to say. So that's also something that we want to be mindful when we are talking to people who we love and trying to comfort them. And that's
Yeah, that's
not to say like that person, but it's just a typical, I hear it a lot, like, oh my gosh, I know what you're going through, and it's innocent, but that innocence does not come off to that other person as such. It's like, you don't know what I've been through. You can't tell me about death. Your mama's still alive,
hmm.
you know?
That's such great feedback, and that's not good great feedback just for death. That's great feedback even when someone's suffering from finding out they have an illness or anything like that. Is our human instinct is to identify, right? Our human instinct is to somehow show that we get it, that we understand you, and sometimes what that does is it makes us start talking about something that we can relate to. Oh yeah, my dad had that, my brother had that, oh I had that, my husband had that, my wife had that, and we forget that we're not when we start doing that, we're no longer listening.
No,
We're dealing with our anxiety about it. We're relating, and we think that that's what we're doing because that's how we're listening. But to that person that initially started the conversation and started telling you about their pain, now they're shutting down. Now they're listening to you because you're like you just showed them that you're not listening to them. That it's you made it about yourself.
right. And then there is a time, where if if I lost the same individual as you lost, it'll come together, especially when you have that closeness of relationship after the initial, shock or the moment of trying to bury whoever.
Mhm.
If you lost your mother and I lost my mother and we are friends, we will bond
Mhm.
naturally, organically, without there being a push there because we
Mhm.
relate to each other. So, of course, I'm going to lean on my friend who can feel and understand not just what I've gone through, but how I get through the pain.
Mhm.
How do I get to the next stage in my life? Because you've been there.
Right. Right. You know, the in keeping with what we're talking about, then the next stage that they call the second stage is anger. That one, I get that one a lot more for some reason. I mean, the denial to me, like it comes quick and often. I know some people stick in it a while and stay in it for a good while, and that's fine. Whatever you're experiencing, your timing is your timing. But the anger one, I get really well. That one, I seem to relate to more. It's like that, like just this is BS, man. This sucks. You know what I mean? You just get frustrated, right?
Yes, that is definitely that second piece, which I am gonna comment to later, not yet, not right now. But yes, so a lot of times after the denial stage, like I can't believe they're gone. No, they're not. I don't want to accept that they are. They can't be gone. I just talked to them yesterday. It's not their time. And then after that hits you, yeah, you become angry because it's not fair.
Mhm.
It's not fair to you that you lost this person that you love. You want them back. You don't understand why, how, when it had to be this person opposed to that person. i've
Mhm.
I've fallen short of some I've fallen short where someone close to me lost someone that they love, and they had the most beautiful, amazing relationship, marriage that I ever saw in my life, right? And then you have this one, he's a dog, he's a cheater, he's lazy, he's evil, he mistreats his wife. And I'm like, I'm keep it real, y'all, because a lot of y'all think this and you don't say it. You
Mhm.
like, why Buddy live and the good guy
Yeah.
had to go?
Yeah.
That's also another level of anger that a lot of people experience.
Yeah.
Why your husband's here and mine gone? Your husband ain't no good, never been
Mhm.
good.
Yeah, that's a hard one
So,
to verbalize, right? That's one that you got to be
right,
careful verbalizing. You keep a lot of those thoughts inside. You know what I mean? I'm sure, especially that campground that recently was got hit. What is that, Camp Mystic? Something like that, in the floods recently. I'm sure the parents that they lost their kids, and then these kids survived, or these kids got out of it, and these kids didn't, or these people. Uh,
exactly,
I'm sure some of them are thinking that, but just you don't just come out and verbalize something like
exactly.
that. Yeah,
Mhm. And some might, but yes, oftentimes it is what is held inside and not spoken, which also is a problem.
right,
Which is why it's good to speak to someone and be transparent and
right,
be real, because this is what you're struggling with on the inside, and that anger
right.
needs to come to the surface. You
Hmm.
can't bury it. You can't keep putting a band-aid on it. You have to dig it up and talk about it. That's the only way that you can heal and get through to another stage of grief.
Right. See, and I'm glad you said that, because what we're trying to do is, like, you're not a bad person for going through these stages. Kind of pretty much everyone does. I mean, these are just the reason these stages even got
Right.
created is because they seem to just happen. We all seem to kind of have this flow of 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 uh, of how we process it, and it's part of the process. So if you get stuck in one of these stages, or you're in one of these stages for an extended period of time, or if you have some very uncomfortable thoughts or feelings while in one of these stages, you're not a bad person because of it. It just says that you're human,
Right.
and you're human, and
Mhm.
you probably need to get with someone, a healthy person that knows how to process through some of this, to maybe kind of heal at a better pace than that you're thinking you need to be at, but instead of just being stuck in the stage, because you can't stuck in the stage for so long where it starts harming you in a very different way. It's that you're not living anymore. You're not there for yourself or for the people that are still living around you. So you don't want to get stuck in these stages too long, but you also don't want to rush someone through these stages, right?
Exactly. And first of all, y'all, I don't have a snotty nose. I'm sweating. So when I go like this, that's what it is. But I want to add this, Lily, that you hit a perfect point, and that is the time. Like no one has a specific amount of time, or the stages of grief does not tell you, well, this first month you're going to experience this, and this
Right.
second month that. You know why? Because everyone's process is different. You might stay in denial for 2 days, where it took me 6 months to actually believe that my father was gone. That doesn't make your stages of grief right and mine wrong, or vice versa. Which that is also something that, ooh, that's a good point. Have you ever seen people who don't understand? Well, this woman was married 6 months. I mean, her husband or the wife passed away 6 months ago, and they're
Yeah.
already dating somebody else.
Yeah.
You get that too.
Ooh. Yeah. Yeah. That could be a hard. That could.
That's a
That.
tough.
That is. You're bringing up a very good point. When you're in one stage of grief and someone moved to a different stage faster than you, or they're already retrying. The way they're processing or the way they're dealing with it is, uh, I'm just going to go start another life. They're stuck in that denial stage, like it ever really was a thing, and they go and try to start another life. That's really hard for you to deal with. So yeah,
Hmm.
there are people out there that saw that happen and want to judge it. Hey, wait a minute, you just lost your husband. You're already with someone else. You know what I mean? Did you even love my
Right.
father? Did you even love my mother? I mean, how is it that you moved on so quick? So there, because everybody's at different stages. It's hard to respect everybody's stage of grief and allow them to be in it. It really is. I think,
It is
look, at the end of the
because
day, we're
everyone wants
we're more
everyone
selfish than
wants
we
you
want to admit.
right, and everybody wants your grief to look like what they think in their mind it is.
Right. Right.
So if in my mind I'm like,
Yeah.
you grieving for 2 years? Why haven't you moved on? Why
Yeah.
you don't have another man?
Yeah.
Why aren't you over your brother? Why are you still crying?
Mhm.
And it's just not fair because
Mm.
everyone is so different. No one wears the same size shoe when it comes to grief.
Yeah.
And I do want to say, we gonna you might go from denial to anger to denial. Some people think that as well
Mm.
when they see a friend or a loved one and they're angry one day, and then the next time you call and they're like, oh, they're not gone. They can't
Mm.
be. They just went out of town. And you're like, wait a minute, just last week you we talked about this. Your cousin is gone. Your sister is gone. Well, they went back and it's okay. It's okay. You go along with someone who is grieving, you hold their hand and you be there for them. And if you
Mm.
can't be there for them in the right selfless way, then get somebody else to do it because you can cause more harm than good. And that's a loud tractor trailer. Woo!
Proof that JoJo is in Alabama. Dr. Brown's in Alabama, sitting on the porch in Alabama. Let me remind everybody we're on 1680 WOKB here in Central Florida area, and of course 100.7 FM. But while we're doing this, the beauty ever since COVID has allowed us to do radio shows from outside the area, and of course Dr. Brown is in sitting on a swinging on a swing in Alabama. Where's your mint julep? Aren't you supposed to be like having like a drink on a swing, or you just because this is the Couch Live and it's a show on recovery today, you're not showing us your refreshment. I'm not saying you have to. Just you can
Yeah,
hide it all you want. Only one of us are the non-drinkers here, right? But that's quite all right. I got my little energy
yeah, your
kind of.
coffee.
No,
Oh
it's an
yeah, you
energy
want that
kind of
energy.
vitamin drink.
I remember you've been replacing that with coffee.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
coffee.
I've
Yeah,
had no.
mhm, yeah,
I do plan to have a glass of wine. They're cooking up some southern breakfast right now,
right.
and yes, I will be getting into it.
Oh yeah. See, my wife would like that house. Breakfast at 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. My wife would love that kind of
Oh
situation.
my gosh,
Yeah.
it's so many memories out here.
Awesome. Awesome. So getting back to this because
So we're
we
at
were in anger.
anger.
Yeah, we're not. Well, after the anger, what comes to bargaining? This is the bargaining is the one that to me can go a lot of different directions, right? This is the one that can be broken down in many different ways. When you start
Mhm.
saying, "What if I would have been there? What if I would have called? What if I would have gone over? Um, what if we would have went together that day?" Because there's a lot of near misses,
Mhm.
like especially when it's an accident, when it's not a health related death, right? Um, all of us have
Mhm.
lost somebody that it was some sort of accident thing, and many of us have had the kind where it's like, wow, I was supposed to be with them that day, or they were supposed to come over that day, or I was supposed to get on the flight that day. Whatever. These are bargaining things where you start figuring out how you could have somehow of how it could have been differently should something else have happened, right?
Right, and that is a hard one Um, that's a hard one, and I really don't. I really don't tap into that so deeply, as
Mhm.
far as like breaking that down, because it's such a wide, range of what that looks like to
Mhm.
individuals. um One, it's kind of like a stage of, it seesaws with denial, right?
Mhm.
um and sorry, this is okay, let me just say this. Treat every day like your last. I've learned that from not just losing individuals in my life, but working with individuals who lost people.
Mhm.
And don't get up on the phone. And this might say, like, well, JoJo, this is really unrealistic. But just
Mhm.
remember, when you get off the phone and you're fighting and you're having an angry moment. And after you hang up, you know what? Send a text message to say, hey, I love you. We have a disagreement. I'll talk to you soon. Like, say certain things, do certain things, live. I was just going to live like there's no tomorrow, because you don't
Mhm.
know the time or the hour for you or for somebody else.
Right.
As far as the why could I, why should I, if you are that friend or that loved one, just be there for that person,
Yeah.
because that's it's just a part of grieving. It's normal. I've
Mhm.
experienced it when I've lost somebody, where I questioned if I had been here or if I have done that. Did I say enough? You know, and so it's just the unfortunate part that you go through in grief. And if you're listening and you're going through grief right now, or at some point you will, don't beat yourself up because you didn't have a chance to say bye one time.
Mm.
Remember the good times. Sometimes we dwell on the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, but what about the things that we did, and that the
Mm.
things that we did experience, the things that we had, the memories that we share, and so lead yourself there. And if someone else that you love and you see them going through that, remind them of the memories. So often people have like anniversaries or birthdays of someone they lost, or the anniversary of their passing. Um, Make it a celebration versus another funeral, in
Mm.
which funerals, I like to tell people, have it as a celebration, celebrate their life versus mourning their death. And through those holidays and things like hard times, remind yourself that even if you have a moment of tears, because I'm not going to tell you that you're not going to cry, you're not going to get sad. You absolutely will get sad. It'll be um, on the other sense, like a little abnormal if you don't, right? At
Mhm.
some point. But after that, pick yourself up, dry your tears, and remember how good, how much time that you shared with that person, whether it was 10 minutes or 10,000 hours.
Right. This is a good time to also remind the audience that when we're talking about stages of grief, it's not just for death. It could be a relationship. It's any kind of loss, any kind of severe disruption in your life. You go through this, So, like these things that we're talking about so far, we've covered what denial, anger. Now we're in bargaining. Even when you break up, you kind of go through
Mm-hmm.
that. We're not really broken up. Then you get mad at the person, and you're like, "Well, what if I would have been a better husband or wife, or maybe I should have done this for the." So all these things are relevant to any kind of severe loss. Like we have an interesting question here, so I want to show this real quick, and it's somebody watching on YouTube Live. He says, "Hey Chief, sorry to ask, but is this an open panel?" Yeah. What is that? Bear Baranowitz?
No,
Yeah, it's
house
a
is
yeah. I'm not great
bear
with
now it.
names. Yeah,
I
I like
got
your
it.
name.
Bear
This
now.
is interesting. Yeah, don't ask me to spell your
I
name if I'm
know.
not looking at it. But what would you like to ask, Bernowitz? It is an open panel. You can absolutely join in. Um,
I'm
yeah,
gonna
you
call you
can join
Bear.
in. But what do you mean? Like, join in face wise or just text it? We can't really trust visual because when people
Yeah,
give visual, I've done that.
send us that.
And yeah, and if we were at the radio station, we could because we have a delay button. We can the producer can hang up at any time. But when we do it this way, it can be a little bit more dangerous. So just go ahead and type in the question, and we'll be glad to talk about it. But yeah, like where you were going with that bargaining thing,
Yeah.
I like it because this is Jojo, when you're trying to just question what you could have done differently, and you're saying live life like it's going to end today. In the addiction world, when families come to me and says, what should I do, they're going to die out there on the street. Should I, well, if I didn't give him the money and put him in a hotel room, he could have died in the street that day. And I'd be like, you have to do, look, I know tough love is a thing, but you have to do whatever you
Mhm.
feel like you can live with. That's the real response in any situation. You have to behave, or do what you can live with, because you're the one that's going to live with it. See, if I'm your counselor, right? I'm
I
still going
love
to go to my house. It's not that I'm not going to feel what you tell me and what you go through, but I'm going to go home and get back in my life. You're the one that after this session still has to live in your life. So who am I to tell you what to do? And you have to live 24/7, 365 in your life. So I'm not going to ever tell you what to do. I'm telling you what options exist out there. I'm telling you some choices that can be made. I may point out some patterns of your life of how things may have worked, but at the end of the day, you got to do with what you can live with, and that's the
you.
serious.
That's That's good right there, Louis. You know why? Because some people see counselors as like the, saving grace or the all for all. And we are guides, right? We guide you through your own story for you to, see, how life is, what will make life better, how
Hmm.
you need to
Hmm.
heal, what can you do to enhance your life and meet your goals and be happy and find joy and peace. We're a guide. We don't tell you what to do. And I think people get that
Hmm.
misconstrued. And I love what you said. Live in your
Hmm.
truth and be able to
Right.
sleep at night.
Yeah.
That's one thing I always tell my clients. Don't go to bed angry,
Right.
whatever it
Right.
is. Because what if you don't wake up in the morning? Or what if that person doesn't wake up in the morning? And I
Hmm.
think I've learned that the older that I have become.
Yeah, you get. Yeah, I mean, you look,
I
at
think
the end
we
of
have
the day, we all walk in our shoes differently, right? We all walk in our shoes the way we walk in our shoes, and it may be healthy, it may be unhealthy, but you know what? I have the right to be unhealthy. That means all of us have the right to be unhealthy. I
Mhm.
have the right to be unskillful. I have the right to not have the skills to deal with certain situations. I'm blessed enough to get to the point of life where I've reached 55 years old, but that doesn't mean I'm promised 55 days in another day. So same thing with everybody that
Right.
exists. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean I did anything more special or better than anyone did that didn't make the 55 years. It just is the situation. Some things just is, right? It just is. And so in that bargaining stage where we're like trying to figure out, could it have been something different? Look, yeah, maybe, but it's not. And no matter how much we play with what it could have been or how it should have been, it is.
It is.
This is what it
It
is.
is. It is.
Yeah. So I'm not living in that alternative universe. And there may be an alternative universe where that negative thing didn't happen. There may be an alternative situation where that didn't happen, but it did in this one. The one we're currently existing in, the one we're currently living in and having to deal with, it did happen. So we have to then get to that next stage, and that the next stage is not what we would hope it would be. We want it to be acceptance, but there's one in between, right, Jojo? There's one stage that seems to creep itself in. Why, when we're dealing with that bargaining, that creeps itself in, and what is that? It's depression. Boom.
And
Now the
that's the
person
one.
doesn't answer the phone. The
That is
person
the
crashes.
And that is the one I want to touch on it, but absolutely, you're correct. If we go by the stages of grief, that is the cycle that they put us in. However, what I have seen and what I believe is
Mm-hmm.
that depression can start from denial. It can start from anger. It can start from bargaining.
Right.
There's not necessarily like a wheel of fortune wheel, you know. Um, but yes, I will say that is the textbook,
Right.
how we learned in therapy and classes and workshops and things that we've been through. We do learn that after bargaining, that's when we get sad. That's when
Mm-hmm.
we get depressed. I
Very
say
much
you're
so.
depressed at anger, you
Mm,
know. Um,
mm,
and then when you are at depression, I personally, you need to talk to somebody.
right.
You need to talk to yourself. A lot of people go in isolation. That's the
Hmm.
worst thing that you can do when you're depressed. Um, like you said, some people get to drinking habits or other certain habits for them to cope, for them to self medicate on what really is going on in the inside. We can't do that either.
Right.
Individuals who love people who are going through, check on your people,
Hmm.
check on them. Oh, I don't mean to back. I wanted to say this earlier.
Uh-huh.
Um, oh, this question is there. Okay, before we answer your question or jump on it, you
No, yeah. Say
know,
what you were going to say 1st. Hmm.
look, and now I've read it and then I completely forgot.
Oh
So
no,
maybe
I
we
did it. I'm sorry. Well, then let's maybe you'll come back to it. But it was a perfect time
come back.
because you were hitting on what he's asking. So let me Bernat Bernat. I'm gonna call him the bear. The bear
We
on YouTube said, "Could I ask then? Do you think religion is a good viable option for dealing with loss and death, or is it worse choice for mental health?"
oh nice. I think it depends on that person. If you are religious, then
Hmm.
absolutely, I think religion will play a big part in your healing process. Now, if you aren't religious, that's when don't. That's a good point too. Some people are religious and they will put the religion on someone who is not religious and grieving. I think that is where the line crosses. So if you
Mm,
know that I'm not a religious individual and I lose somebody, I'm not trying to hear about your religion, period.
right, right.
But if I am a religious person and you know that, absolutely, you bring that scripture, bring that Bible, bring that Quran, bring whatever it is that me and you have a relationship when it comes to religion, because that definitely can help me as I grieve, as I go through the process. But it depends on the person.
Yeah,
What do you
you're
think,
absolutely
Louis?
right. I love that you said that because it reminds me of when my sister I mean my wife lost her sister when she was in her 40s, right? um and my mother-in-law was I remember being with her when someone came to her and said, "Don't worry, she's now in a better place." My mother-in-law hit the roof. My mother-in-law was so fresh.
Mm,
She goes, "What does she mean she's in a better place?" Now we all know what the lady meant. Her intention was she was sitting now with Jesus, and she's in heaven now. But my mother-in-law was like, wasn't hearing that at all. My mother-in-law was saying, "You think that that's a better place than being here with her kids? You think that's a better place than being here with her family? Are you out of your mind?" And cut that person off of her life. Boom, that relationship, friendship was done because of that statement. So I like what you said
it
because
was
we
more.
have to be, yeah, we have to be mindful, like you said earlier, of who we're talking with. So Bear, one of the things, and thank you, Bear, for giving us permission to say, yeah, I like he look. This is what he said. I love this. He said, "Just say Bear." Yeah, I love it. So Bear, um, faith. I agree with Jojo. I think faith and religion can work if you already had it, kind of at least in there, so that you can access it. But I don't think we can push anyone to further access it unless they're asking. It's one of those attraction rather than promotion kind of deals, right? People have to be attracted to it and kind of be seeking it and going for it to become a usable, viable option. If not, it just becomes very frustrating, and you might not be at that position in your stages of grief to be accepting of whatever you might misread what the person's intentions are. You're way too vulnerable at that moment. Remember, when someone has just lost anything, whether it be a person or an occupation, or a relationship, they're very vulnerable at the moment. And in that stage of vulnerability, we don't know the whole picture or the whole story. All relationships are built on fractions of stories because
Mhm.
we're human and we all have things inside of us that the others don't know. Even if the people are super close to you, you just don't know, or you don't understand all the intricacies of the relationship. So faith is so personal that it has to be
Mhm.
requested. I have to want what you're selling, man. I got to be asking you for that help, for you, for whatever you're offering me to be helpful. Now, Jojo, what I'll ask you, because even though I'm not a religious person, I do send people prayer hands because to me, I use that as a symbol of like peace, love. I'm here. It's almost like a hug.
Mhm.
Like there's not a good emoji of a hug, and that's really what I want to send is a big
Mhm.
hug, right? So I use this. Is that acceptable? You think, or am I pushing something that maybe I shouldn't be pushing?
I think that's a slippery slope,
Okay.
right? Is that common? Absolutely. But if that is something, that you express as the way that you identify it as, is that something that you all, normally do when it's something else that has gone on in your life through your relationship? And so this is
Mm-hmm.
something that we share, you know. But be careful. That's
Okay.
that's that's really the bottom line. You even have to be. I mentioned about the, whether or not you have, this relationship with God, or whatever your religion is.
Right.
But also, which I didn't touch on, is you have religious people, when someone dies, they're not trying to hear religion either.
Right. Right.
So you also have to be careful with that and take step by step
Right.
with that process. I've had a client before, super religious, and what you just said about they're in a better place now, they struggled with that, because when you
Yeah.
go to a lot of funerals, religious funerals, that's what they
Right.
say. Oh, he's
Yeah.
in a better place now. He's in a
Yeah.
better place now. But then if you look at the scripture of Christianity, all right, this we don't. Uh-oh.
We
Okay,
hear you just
sorry.
fine.
You there?
Hmm. Yeah. We hear you
Okay,
just
great,
fine.
great. So, um, when it comes to, what I was saying was, same thing like you. We're in a better place now. They're in a better place now. But then this individual questioned it. It's like, wait a minute. In the scripture it says, when you die, you die,
Hmm.
and then God comes back again at
Yeah.
another point. So
Right.
it's like, wait a minute, they contradict what they say. And
Mm.
so that also has been a rift that I have experienced as well. And
Okay.
so, with that, how I do therapy is I meet them where they are. So until that individual is, there's an opening where they are receptive to that relationship with God or not, I
Hmm.
tread lightly. Me personally,
Yeah.
I'm
It's
not
good.
gonna. I don't do that. It's like, God, God told you. I'm mad at God. I don't want to hear nothing about no God right now,
Right.
and that's normal.
Yeah.
And don't, if you are religious and someone you lose is religious and they respond that way, don't nail them to the cross, because they are just going through the grieving process, and their grieving does not look like yours. They could be at church every Sunday, be in the choir and on the worship team, and they lose someone, and they have a moment of lost hope. They have a moment where they question God. That does not mean that they don't believe.
Right. And while we're talking about this, it goes same the opposite direction, where that if that person is a religious person and says something that maybe you don't believe in because you're not religious, don't offend their religion. This is not the time for you to have some sort of conversation or debate on heaven, hell, God. Don't make it about
Or convert
that.
them.
Yeah. If somebody's about to go in a bad
So,
situation and they say, "Can you pray with me?" or "I hope God is with me," and you go, "Ah, God doesn't exist," or you refuse to pay for him, don't shut them down. If they're asking, just who cares? Like when in Rome, right? You know what I mean? When in Rome, be there for them. I'll pray with somebody. I don't care. I've been asked to pray for. I mean, I'll pray with you. I'll go to a church with you. I'll go to a mosque with you. I'll go to a synagogue with you. I'll go to a Buddhist temple with you. I'll do any of that. Why? Because it's not a. It's if I'm secure in my belief system, I don't need to be I don't need to act insecure and fight you about yours. You know, if I'm secure in mine, it doesn't matter what I do. I can do anything to partake in it. So I just wanted to mention that as well. And then the last thing, because we're running out of time, and I know Shaw
I
back in the
like
studio needs us to kick it back to him. The final stage is acceptance. The stage we all want to get to. Let it go, but not really let it go. It's just acceptance. This is what happened, and I have
right.
to accept it and move on with life, right? Let's talk about that.
That's a beautiful place to reach is when we finally are able to accept. And acceptance can mean a world of things as well. So
Mhm.
acceptance could mean the first step of acceptance is okay, I accept that you are gone, right? And then there's acceptance where I'm able to move forward, I'm able to move on. And so acceptance also has a wide range as well, where, you know what, I might be in a level of acceptance, but when you look at me, Louis, it doesn't appear that way, because the way I'm at in the acceptance is not how you define it or how you
Right,
see it. My acceptance might take 2 years before I'm able to move on. Does that mean that I didn't accept what happened, who I lost?
right,
Absolutely not.
right.
And some people look at it, well, once you accept it, move on. Not
Well, move
necessarily.
well,
And
move
more
on doesn't
importantly,
necessarily. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
oh, no, no, I was just going to say that the stages of grief that we're talking about, which I want people to understand too, is that it can change. I can go through every stage there is, reach acceptance, and then fall back angry.
Hmm.
I can fall back in bargaining. I can fall back in denial. And so I do want to make that clear while we're talking to everybody that it's not just a cookie cutter,
Right.
whether you're going through it or you know someone that's going through it. So that's just something I wanted to share.
Oh, no problem. And I was just simply going to say, acceptance doesn't mean replace either. Replacing doesn't necessarily speed up your your acceptance either. It's just, it just is what it is. Look, we have to close up. We're out of time. Any final words on any of this? Thank you for those that asked questions, and thanks to those that joined us today on
Yeah, we
whether it be
welcome them.
Facebook
Thank you,
Live,
Peter. Shout
YouTube,
out to you.
Twitch. But last words, Dr. Brown.
Take your time through the grieving process. It is okay. Take the time that you need. For those of you all who have friends and loved ones, go at their pace. Be understanding. Their pace is not your pace, and vice versa. I will say we talked about briefly about moving on to other relationships and things like that. Great. You still have a life to live. However, make sure that you go through that grieving process. You heal from that before you jump into something else. And lastly, I want to say anybody who is grieving, I send you so much love. Um, and I send you so much support. If you want to DM me or message me, or you want to even come and get some counseling, limitless and authentic, you can find me. My heart goes out to you and your family.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And look, my final things, first of all, I want to dedicate this because the people that have died in the most recent days, uh, in my personal life, number one, David Siegel, uh, uh, you know, uh, then we also have Kathy, Aunt Kathy, Aunt Sissy is how we know her, my wife's aunt. We lost her. Then you have Jamie Vance in Nashville, good friend, and then you have the obviously the people that Chris, Terry's boyfriend. Then we have the stars. Then you got Malcolm-Jamal Warner, Theo's gone. Then we got Ozzy Osbourne, you're gone. And then of course recently the last one of that group, Hulk Hogan, recently passed. And there's so many, 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 many more. And we all have a names. We all have a list, right? But here's one thing we all have in common. The good thing is that we're people who love people. That's who we are. We're humans, and we connect with people. And connectivity is the exact opposite of the depression and loneliness and addiction disease that exists out there. So we're staying connected. I'd rather go through this connectedness and cry and mourn and feel horrible and then get to a point of celebrating you and loving you, but I'd rather go through these losses than to not have a connection, and not have these moments, because the little laughters and jokes and games and experiences that we have with each other while we're here. I don't care how few and far between, and I don't care how short of a time period that may be, it's worth it. It's worth all of it. Just like when you sacrifice for your family and you have to be gone for hours upon hours to make that money, it's worth it for you to be able to have those blessings of time together and those dinners and those vacations and all of that. So embrace every moment. Now does matter more. Now matters more. You can go to nowmattersmore.org if you or your family member have any issues with addiction and you want some help. Jojo, go ahead. You got something?
One more thing. I want to challenge everyone who is in the grieving process to think something positive. Remember a beautiful memory of what you shared with that individual today. That's our challenge to you.
That's the
That's it.
prescription to you. That's a doctor's prescription for you. Anyway, from all of us here on the Couch Live, adios amigos. It's time for a taco. Goodbye.